So we all have a shared experience here, sports, right? So even, well, I mean, we've seen what's going on with the Hamlin guy from the Buffalo Bills. Like we know sometimes the risk, the toll. You just talk about your needs, the toll it takes on our bodies, the time commitment. But we all are here, because we love the game. So I kind of just wanted to start off, just what brought us to sports, what made us want to commit and play on the highest level or get started with, as early as 8th grade, to get into these sports. So I guess, Micah, let's go ahead and kick us off. Just what brought you to sports and kind of just your origin story. And then
I grew up in a competitive family, even outside of playing sports. Like, I was getting beat up on the PlayStation early. So for me, and then obviously playing those games, you get that, that sense of, having role models. I see Michael Vick on the cover of Madden 2004, and I couldn't beat my uncle. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to just run it straight down the pipe with Vick. So for me, it was competition, and it was also seeing role models, guys that look like me playing the sport. And I think after a while, it was just second nature at that point. And I think you kind of develop a reason or a why as you go and things happen in your life. But yeah, I just wanted to be better than everybody, and it was fun. So why not?
I think what kind of led me to track was the individuality of the sport. I actually started off playing basketball. I played basketball all throughout middle school, half of high school, and then I gave up basketball to solely focus on running track because I love the sport. I love the competition. I love how it's anybody's game. And there's an adrenaline rush that kind of comes with that, because I always tell people, like, I don't say anything before my meets. I take a nap before my meets because my heart be pumping, my blood be racing. And by the time it's time for me to run, I'm running fast because my adrenaline running is like, I feel nervous, like I said, before every race, feel like I want to throw up. But it's just like, the quicker I run, the quicker I'm done. So it's like, that's just how the game goes. And I run a 26.5, or I run a 59, or I split a 58 in the 4x4, and now we on the podium. So it's like, I ran anchor, and it was like, I got thrown into that the day before, and it was 35 degrees outside in South Dakota. So it's like, I love the sport, and I love my teammates too. So it's just like, and I don't know if y'all know, like football, y'all, this is a big team. My track team is a big team, and like basketball, it's 20 guys on the team. It's 10 of us running the 400, so at least. So, I mean, I really love the sport, and it's just like Micah said, seeing people that look like me doing the sport, Allison Felix, Sion Richards-Ross, just people that are overly good at it. Like, the most decorated athlete in Olympic history is Allison Felix in the track and field world. So it's just like, and she recently retired. So it's like, rest from your labor, queen.
For sure. She said she put basketball down. I had flashbacks. No, I gotta stop now. Oh.
Yeah, so putting down the basketball to pick up a baton was a good decision, though. So, yeah, it was fun.
Real, what about you?
I think adding on to both of those, I grew up in a family that's full of sports. My dad and my grandpa growing up coaching. I grew up going to basketball and football games, running up and down the football field with my dad's team from 3 years old to still now doing the same things with my dad's Sizzle AAU team. So I just decided, a couple years ago I got on a couple teams, but I didn't really stick. Then COVID happened, so now I'm trying to gradually get back into it. But I also dislocated my knee like 2-3 months ago, so I still got to be careful with both my knees because I tweaked this one playing, dislocated this one. So I'm just trying to get back into it and get better for my team, and also going into high school next year so I can do more.
Going into high school next year.
Yes.
Man, I'm on my 10-year reunion.
Next year is mine.
I think it's for mine.
All in y'all.
What are you doing in 2014?
Watching basketball and football games from the sideline on my iPad.
Coach, what brought you to sports?
So I grew up like everybody else in a athletic family. You couldn't be a McKenzie, not play basketball. My dad was kind of a local high school legend in Miami. Then my uncle, who was 12 years older than me, was a star basketball player at Miami Northwestern, went to NYU, played 2 years in Italy, and then 8 years in the NBA. So I was just always around basketball. And so for me, and then I learned early on, I mean, like sports, right? You could either use the game or the game use you. And so I saw opportunity was for me was, get out of Miami at a time when it was crazy and allowed me the opportunity to go to school and see a different part of the country and do some different things.
Now, when you came here, this is the first time you ever seen snow?
First time I ever seen snow. I went crazy. Yeah. Now I'm tired of seeing
See? It's about 15 inches out
For
there.
too much snow.
Too much.
Car stuck on every corner.
Malik?
So for me, I'm just like the rest of the group. Like Coach McKenzie, if you was a rucker, you could not play football. My dad played at the University of Nebraska. My oldest brother played at the University of Nebraska. Got a brother that's older than me that played at the University of North Dakota.
You had no choice.
I had no choice. And literally all my older brothers had offers or played at the Division I level. So and I was the youngest. I'm the youngest, so just think about that. I'm just trying to keep up with them and hang with them. So I had to look at the game a little bit different. They was way more athletic than me. They was bigger, faster, stronger, so I always was the smart one. And so I used the game in a different way, but that's how I got into sport. I'm still in sport to this day, and I'm forever. I'll be in sport business probably the rest of my life.
What do you guys miss the most
About what?
about sports? About playing?
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline's always.
I'll say that adrenaline and the locker room, being with your teammates every day, and like being able to have people that's going through the same thing you're going through on a daily basis. Because the conversation always awkward with people that's not going through sports. The activity of doing education and sport at the same time and having to balance that is. We can't even sit here and talk about the complications to people that don't know because they just won't understand.
Right. I don't want to tell you why I got home
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock in the morning and got to be at an 8 a.m.
Yeah, and it's likewise with any other profession that you do that we don't do or that they don't do. So like, it's a situation where like you get to the point where you're not in the locker room no more. You like, man, I gotta get up, make sure I motivate myself. My homie not here with me, and you kind of work through that. Yeah.
I mean, I think too, just, when you're an athlete, man, just the people that you're around are learning to compete. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think so that part and just, like you say, the lifelong relationship
Yep.
that you have. I mean, I still, I've been out of high school a long time, but I still, stay in communication with my teammates. And it's always funny. I mean, you get into conversations and, even though it's been a long time ago, they can remember the exact moment of a play or a game,
Yep.
those kind of things. And, it's just, it seems to me like a different kind of friendship or relationship that you learn to have with your teammates.
And just to even piggyback off of everybody, I was telling Josh on my way here, I was just thinking about like your teammates, them be your friends for life. Like I done been in 3 of my teammates' weddings already. They kids call me auntie. And so it's like, I guess, I think the thing that I miss the most about my sport specifically is the culture, because it's just like a lot of people, they go to these games and, you got your rivals and stuff like that. And, everybody talk they trash on the court and stuff like that. But it's just like when we go to track meets, we don't do that. Everybody kumbaya together because it's going to be in pain after this. Everybody and their mamas know like the thighs, quads, everything don't hurt. So it's just like, we cheer for everybody, we root for everybody, and it's like we know that our sport is hard. So it's like that's the thing that I probably miss the most is going to meets, like, cause it's like football and basketball, it's a one-on-one type of meet, but it's like I'm going to a meet and it's 6 other teams, 12 other teams, so you just get to know so many people, and I love that about it.
And they become family. That's the stuff. For me, it's the relationships. It's not a lot of people that know about waking up at 5 a.m.
Just can't explain.
and going to lift 500 pounds at 5 a.m. Like that's a regular thing. So just having that brotherhood of people that has gone and come from similar places that you come from in different areas of the United States, and y'all like way more alike than you thought.
Yep.
And they just become family, and their people become your family. And then also the process, just football is, we work out 365 days a year to play 13 games. So, I mean, there's a whole process of getting ready for those 13 games and coming together with those brothers in that culture, that family, to achieve a common goal.
Yeah, I wanted to hit on that first, just because obviously we all love sports. It's kind of shaped. I think it's safe to say that it shaped who we all are today, right? We talk about family. We talk about the discipline it takes, just the adrenaline rush, and the atmosphere. But recently, the reason why we're kind of all here gathered today with the student conference, the World Cafe, is some of these high schools at some of these games. There's been racist events going on. There's been notes left in bags all within the last year. There's been racist chants, monkey sounds for some of the players on these, on these courts, on football fields. So I guess just when you hear that, when it sounds like the arena is like our sanctuary, right? It's where we go to heal, it's where we go to perform. When you guys hear that that's going on right here in the place that a lot of us grew up in, we played in, we coached in, I guess what's the first thing that comes to you guys' mind?
It's really disappointing because it's like, one, it's 2023. It's like, give it a rest at some point. But it's like, it's very disappointing because being from the inner city and being from a place where there's a lot of people that look like you, and this is not the first time that y'all have seen somebody that looks like me, and the fact that you think that that's okay when it's been shown countless of times, there's no excuse that that's not okay. So it's like, where do you draw the line, and when do you start doing something? When do you do something about it? And who is to do something about it?
Yeah, I would say that to your point, I mean, I grew up at the tail end of the civil rights movement, and at some point you think that you're going to make progress. And I always say the more things change, the more they stay the same. I experienced that last year in the state tournament. After our semifinal game, I mean, we were going to the bus. One of my players pulled me over and shows me his cell phone, and he's got this Instagram message where somebody's calling him N-word, monkey. I mean, everything you could think of, right? And so we just finished, and for me, I mean, even when I think about it now, I get upset because we have to come back. We finished the game at 10 o'clock at night. We got to come back and play within a few hours, and I'm on the phone all night dealing with this situation, his dad, who happened to grow up in the South, so, that instantly triggered something with him, so he was upset. Then you dealing with the kids, you're trying to focus on getting ready to play a next game. And I think it's sad. I think it happens too much in Minnesota, in particularly a state where you're supposed to have some of the most progressive liberal folks. But it's constant. I mean, even now, as we speak, we're waiting I'm waiting to hear the outcome of what happened at Eden Prairie a couple of weeks ago with the coach and the conversation, in the locker room. So it's troubling because you just wonder, I mean, like all of you all, you're eighth grader, but I thought probably at this stage of my life that my kids and my grandkids wouldn't have to be dealing with this nonsense. But it's still here.
It's every day. It's every day because in my generation, everybody thinks it's a joke. They don't take it they don't take anything seriously enough where they think about it as that can be affecting somebody's life anywhere. And everybody just says, I'm just going to say this and I'm going to laugh it off. But little do they know this could do something to their family. And they just think, what's whatever, but really it's not whatever. It's something that you shouldn't say. And it's not just it could be in a racist term or it could be any other term they can think of. They're just going to say it and hope that nothing happens, even though something could happen.
And I think that's like the disconnect. Like, it's so nice to have 3 different generations here right now because it's just like, you said you grew up at the end of the civil rights movement, and we grew up seeing Philando. Like, that was the summer after my freshman year here. And it was just like Jamar Clark, George Floyd. And it's just like to see that kids her age take it as a joke, that's heartbreaking. because it's just like at what point, and it's just like when y'all gonna get serious? Because unfortunately, there's people that don't play about it, and it's just like I hate for people to get hurt about it, and it's just like the more you mess around, the more you find out.
You gonna find out.
So you're gonna have one day you're gonna have the right person.
But in the end, though, then our kids end up, you know what I'm saying, being on the worst end of the step because now you call, I'm coming down the court, I'm making a layup, and you in the crowd calling me the N-word. If I come and do something, they ain't gonna say how it started, right? So talk about how it's right. It's gonna be the reaction, and so now we're on Channel 5, now we're on Channel 4, making the news. One of the things that I struggle with though, for that, like in our game that particular night, there were adults in the crowd. You know what I'm saying? And so I mean, you got kids over there, you got somebody, and nobody says a word, right? And like you said, New Prague, I think the Cooper girls went through something last year. Minnetonka girls went through something. So I mean, it's happening way too much.
I want to go to that because you're actually alum from Cooper, and that girls basketball game, it happened within the last year, happened in 2022. I guess when you first found out about that, like knowing that's a school you went to, that you grew up at, really, and that you gained, who you are today, through those hallways. Like when you saw that headline or whatever, I guess what went through your mind?
I felt for the kids. And Cooper, I was more concerned about Cooper and with the process and the trauma that those kids have to deal with going forward. I wasn't surprised or shocked at all. I think that the racism is gonna keep going for forever. It just shows up in different ways. It just evolves. It's one of those things that just keeps evolving. But my first thing was, how do we make sure those kids got the resources that they need to be able to process what they just went through and to be able to finish their season strong and to be able to utilize the sport and to go through that adversity to fuel the rest of their season. So that's kind of went through my head. I wasn't shocked at all. I've been through my own fair share of things.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, both.
That you're not surprised.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, I ain't surprised at all. And Cooper I'm pretty sure their basketball team is probably like 98% black in a pretty much all white conference. So it's I would say it's pretty much a part of going to a school like that, playing in these playing against the teams like New Prague.
But I think, one of the things that bothered me, and I just remember, like you say, Fernando Castillo, and then you think about this kind of situation. And as a coach, why do I have to spend extra time having a conversation with my young men? So instead of me preparing for a game, I got to prep you on what somebody might say in the stand. Okay, you can't, we got to be the bigger person. We can't respond to it, that kind of stuff. And the guy in the other locker room, he ain't got to go through that with his kids, right? Because and you already know that if one of our kids, right, from Cooper is in the stands and say something inappropriate, everybody in New Prague gonna be all over that kid. He's gonna get escorted out, right? So they don't have to go through some of the challenges that we have to go through. And I always say that, like, if even like a dad, right? As a dad, I gotta have a different conversation with Malik, right? Being the coach at Hopkins with his kid. And to me, that's one of the things that I struggle with, and I think other people, oftentimes don't understand that.
Yeah, I think, from my perspective, going to Notre Dame, and it's sad for me because one of my best friends in this whole world is Caucasian. You know what I'm saying? And when I got to Notre Dame, my mission was to put myself in situations that he was in, that he would do on a daily basis, class, being with everyone else in the food court, and also having conversations with him to make myself, to him, to seem more human, right? And for me, that's what we all go through on a daily basis in sports, right? It's we on the field, we black, we, accrue this amount of money once we get to the NFL or the NBA, If we're in, high school, we gotta act accordingly. You know what I'm saying? And it gets to the point where we all just trying to prove that we're human to them, right? And so that's a sad thing for me. That's my first reaction to your question, because I come from a very diverse high school, and like we rarely had those situations in my high school. Obviously, I played in a league in a conference where there was, predominantly Caucasian and, had those struggles. But like for me to have friends that are white, Hispanic, Muslim, from all different parts of the world, parents from all different parts of the world, I'm going over their house, we having food, they telling me all this different types of stuff about their culture. And then I got to go on the field and hear a team chant
You crazy.
different types of stuff. I'm like, they're not even doing that over at my boy crib. Like, so you just get into this game, right, where a lot of the poets from, the civil rights movement, they call it double consciousness. So you get into this game where you got one side of you, I'm Micah Dutreadway on the field, I'm dominating, I play nose guard, I'm the first line of defense, but then I come out here and I got to be somebody totally different than who I am. So that's really, for me, that's the sad part about it, right? And then we do that on a daily basis in business. So it's just, for me, that's my first reaction to it. And
when my whole pretty much upbringing, I never had a white principal. I pretty much had all black administrators throughout my entire schooling until college.
Yeah, sometimes.
I literally,
I think I had my first black professor in college.
yeah, for sure.
well, I only had one black professor in college, but when I was in
Jealous?
when I was
The
coming up, I didn't know there was a different national anthem than the black national anthem until I was probably in like 5th grade.
Wow.
I never even heard it before. And then when I went to the University of Iowa,
Oh, yeah.
our first game, it was 80,000 white people. Just
C.
chanting.
It's a C.
And I was like,
Goes like this.
I was shocked. And I've been in there like as a recruit, but it was different. Like when you was on
When
the
the
field,
seats
it
is
just
here.
felt like people were looking at you.
They just,
It was a different vibe. But when I was at the University of Iowa, my sophomore year, 2014, one of the professors thought it was a great idea to put a KKK statue in the middle of the campus. And
You a faculty member?
yeah, the professor.
that's
And
ridiculous.
I tell you, the University of Iowa are only black people, the athletes at the school.
Yeah, that's how it was in
They
there.
put that, he put that thing in there for, I don't know, some type of experiment. I don't remember how he tried to explain it, but we didn't know what was going on. We just walk into class and just see this KKK thing. We just like, nah, I'm out of here. Like, they put us on lockdown for a bit. And then, furthermore, about the University of Iowa, if you follow post George Floyd, a lot of the players came out and they sued him, and they talked about the racism that we all felt while we were there, and they're still going through their process right now. And I come from such a background where I never had to really deal with it so much, so blatantly, until I went to the University of Iowa and had to deal with some of that stuff there, which was affecting me every day, just not in sport.
This is a buildup of trauma, man. And you just gotta, like, it's tough to deal with it all, right? Playing in 2020 I hated it. It was from the time that we kicked off, to the very last game, which the last couple games I played extremely well, I hated it. Because it was just George Floyd, I didn't leave the crib for like a week. Couldn't do it. I felt small. Came out, we went to work out, and I had all that stress and trauma on my body. I probably was like 20, 25 pounds over. And so like I got all of this trauma going into the season, and then I got to switch. Now we got interviews. I got to be like this. I got to act like this. I got to talk like this. I got to walk like this. And for all of us, it's a buildup of stuff that you don't want to deal with. And yeah.
So what's that like when you got to be like play a violent game like football, and you got to get into like this mode of like, I got to kill or be killed, right? And then you get off the field and you got to switch. Now you have to be mindful of like what you wear. Like I gotta wear pastel colors. I gotta talk a certain way. It's how you doing instead of what's up. Like what's that like when you have to change that? Like your humanity is always in the back of your mind.
For me, I never cared. I was gonna be me regardless, and that comes from being in those schools that I grew up in and having the parents that I had, and they just made me feel like I could do whatever I want to do in life, and I could walk that walk like I walk it, and I had twists, I had braids, I wore Air Force Ones, I did, I was just me. So I really, when I didn't necessarily have to interact with white people on a daily basis, I just continued to walk in that because I was just comfortable in my own skin. So for me, I just never really cared about what they thought or tried to impress them.
Yeah, very similar. Being from Chicago, any athletes that you know, or any really body, like they're not really gonna change. The way they walk or talk. That's just how we taught from a very young age. And even being at Notre Dame, like it wasn't. I wanted to be myself 100% of the time. So I think the place where it comes in is in your dealings with coaches, in your dealings with professors, in your dealings with media, for sure. And a lot of that, and even some of the people that you go to school with, unfortunately, that see you on a daily basis, that should be more accepting to who you are in those dealings as well. And a lot of that is just code switching. And I always tell people your network is your net worth. So like for me, it was, okay, I could sit here and try to be different all the time, or I could actually like try to get to know these people. And then once I get to know them, they'll get to know me. And so it was hard, obviously, when you're talking about, adjusting like I said, with the coaches and professors.
That was my biggest thing.
Continuously just trying to make them think that you're more civilized, which is sad to say, than they actually think you are. So yeah, it's tough. So you got a lot to look forward to.
So for me at the University of Iowa, when I was there, when you walk through those doors, you kind of gotta be, what do they call it? Iowa made or something. I don't even remember what they call it, like the Hawkeye way. So when you come in there, you kind of gotta move a certain way. It's kind of real militant. You kind of gotta get in line. It's just the culture of it, and it's rooted in racism. But I think that's the thing that messed with me the most, was that when I walked through those doors, I kind of had to suppress myself, and not be my full self in those walls. But
I don't think you have to suppress yourself. I think it's more so like a coping mechanism or a protection mechanism.
Most of
So, yeah, we
Survival.
want to unfamiliar place, and unfortunately, it's like that's just what we do.
But I think Malik said something that was important for me. So I grew up, both of my parents were educators, and my dad made sure we read a lot. And I went to a small school, Wisconsin River Falls, 125 African Americans, 100 black male athletes, 4,500 students. And for me, my survival was like you. I knew who I was, right? So I tell people to this day, the only way that I got through that is because what my parents, right, had put into me. And you think about the kids that didn't have that, right? Those were the ones that struggled. But I didn't really care what they said, because I knew we were more than about slavery. You know what I'm saying? I was educated for it with this. So, and again, for me, when I was there 4 years, I was president of the Black Student Union. So I was always doing something black. From the time I got there to the time that I'm
Always
and say, right.
black. I love that.
I still doing
Conscious.
right. Yeah. So that was
I want to get Brielle in here, because you're hearing two different generations of people have the same experiences. Like, and you talk about like how you're about to get to high school. Like, when you hear this, when you see the news, are you weary at all about like playing sports or even just going to high school? Like, talk about your like mindset as you get into this really big transition in your life.
I think that with the schools I have in mind, my family went there, so my family's given me like experiences from like when they were there, but I also know I know kids who go there right now, so this generation's going to be something different, and I know that from my experiences going to different high schools and having friends that are in high school and coming here with my dad at times and seeing how different people act in different ways. So I'm kind of like an easy adapter, so I can figure out how to filter myself around certain people. Having my friends, everybody has a whole different personality, so I know how to like kind of convert my personality to, I guess, not have to worry so much about what I'm doing wrong in a situation or what is gonna happen as much, because I think a lot about everything that could happen, and so then I just try to adapt to the most thing I can adapt to.
I think I would encourage you to just kind of find your tribe. Like once you, like a lot of the time, like, cause when I was in high school, I was the it girl. I was like, I was prom queen. So it was like, I was prom queen in high school. I was voted most likely to be a future Olympian. I was president of student government. You know, I was track captain. My brother was the quarterback in our football. So it's just like, you can always like find people that you know that you relate to, and that's your teammates and that's your teammate. Then hang in there with them.
But I think regardless, going back to the original question, none of us go to compete in a stadium or in a gym or in a track field with the expectation of somebody called, look at that moving go, any of those kind of things. And so with a high, you can't, right, you
Sometimes I have to
go
expect
to, you go to, you're right, like a lot of times for us, right, that is our, and like for me, I mean, I always tell people in the gym, right, that's my safe space, right? So the last place that I want to be violated is in a gym. You know what I'm saying? And so I think a lot of times people, you know, the people that's doing that, you know, I mean, you could tell us, you can say, oh, you know, don't react, don't respond, but it's hard not to. I mean, you could be, you know, hitting it, right? But if you hear, hey, look at that, you know what, right, you're gonna slow down, you're gonna hear it, right? You're gonna hear it. And I don't care what you say, it stays with you. You know, I tell everybody, in my whole coaching career, I had 4 technicals, and each one of them was because somebody in the stand said something to me, and I responded. And I'm saying, when I'm saying said something, calling me the N word or something inappropriate, that I responded to. You know, and I know, matter of fact, in New Prague, it happened to me when I was at Holy Angel, and they were calling the police on me. And I'm trying to say, this dude over here, you know, I'm a grown man with gray hair, and he ain't talking to me any kind of way. You know what I'm saying? And so no matter who you are, you know what I'm saying, you go to do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you guarding somebody and they do a move and they call you the N-word, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're going to look at the wide receiver, you know what I'm saying, some kind of way, right? It's going to have an impact. And I think a lot of time, the power to be. So to me, you know, one of the challenges that we have as y'all doing this project is like, what is high school league going to do about it? What kind of team are they going to put into when people are responding to the athletes that way? Because again, at least in every situation that I know over the last few years, it has not happened in the city. It's always been in the suburbs or rural Minnesota, where our kids of color, right? Black and brown kids are having these issues. I haven't heard yet, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, where a kid from Osseo or Hopkins or Lakeville South or any of those kids came to Minneapolis North or South and somebody called them, you know what I'm saying? Don't happen.
You'll never see it.
It don't happen, right? Yeah.
That actually happened to me once. Now you talk, I just thought about it when I was a senior. We played Benil, and I don't know. You know, when you coming in, you got hype, you got offers, you ranked in the state, like everybody on your head, like it's like everybody trying to take your head off. And it was a play. I can't remember what happened in the play, but after the play, the dude called me boy, and the ref heard it, and the ref threw the flag on him though. But you just brought me back to that. I forgot all about that. But he literally called me boy, and it was a white ref who threw that flag on him though.
And I just think sometimes too, even going off of like what you said, Coach, it's like you got your 4 technicals defending yourself, because it's like what are we teaching our kids and what are we teaching our athletes? It's like, are we teaching them to take disrespect? I don't think so. not in this lifetime at least, because it's just like there's things that, you know, you let stuff roll up off you, but it's just like also the disrespect, that's something that, you know, you can't tolerate, because it's just like, my people didn't die behind this. So
And I could have just, I mean, like the Minnetonka situation where that's your teammates leaving notes in the locker room. Where else would it happen again? Someplace else?
There was it was
St. Louis Park.
St. Louis Park. I'm not sure about St. Louis Park, but I know there was a school that it was big, like
New Prague. Prior Lake.
Prior
Lake.
my friend's daughter was going to Prior Lake at the time.
Because I know the coach. He quit after that. Yeah.
My friend's daughter was going to Prior Lake at the time, but Prior Lake has had so many different racial scandals in the last couple of years. They pulled their kids out of Prior Lake.
They had a couple in like a week.
Yeah, no,
But
seriously.
I mean,
My son put their kids out of school.
it's not surprising.
The sad part behind the trauma, right, is that we deal with it and it's like, okay, well, let me go to school tomorrow and
Right.
you know, act like I don't really care because they gonna get
Or act like I didn't see it.
Yeah, for sure.
I do want to say, to be fair, there's been, every time something happens, the administrators, superintendents, they put out statements and everything. And after that, I remember that happened. The high school league, they put out a new plan basically to kind of condemn and to take action on whenever that happens, because it's going to probably happen again. Whenever it happens again, they outline a new plan with protocol. So we'll see how it gets enforced moving forward, but we know how that goes with all of that. But just I guess to kind of move the conversation along, we've seen the slogan, like more than an athlete. We've kind of seen Colin Kaepernick. We've seen people take stands. We've seen our female athletes definitely take big stands and threaten to not play and wear shirts and everything of that nature. Like, I guess my question to all you guys is, do you guys feel like a sense of responsibility to like not only hold yourself accountable, perform for your teammates, for yourself, for your fans, but do you feel like you have to perform in a certain way for like your people?
At the end of the day, I'm black. Whether I'm on the track or off the track, I'm black all day long. I was born black and I would die black. And so it's like, all sports aside, it's just like not even like taking a stand. It's just like I'm a person. And it's just like, y'all should treat me as such. It's not even like me just being an athlete and me going out here to perform for anybody. It's just like at the end of the day, that respect has to be there for us as people. And I always say that, like, us as people need to do better. Like, not even us as black people. White people need to do better, because it's just like us as a people, we got to do better.
But I think, I'll say as a coach, I think I always felt a responsibility about how I approached the game, how I responded on the sideline. One, for my kids, right, to be a model for my kid. But also, I always knew that as a black successful basketball coach, that I was always under the microscope, that I was always be and watch. I tell the story. I always tell people that Coach McKenzie is Larry McKenzie. Most people know me, know the work that I've done with young black men over the years. I went to a church as a youth speaker, right, and got a letter from the high school league that I was recruiting, and was lucky enough that it was recorded. And the first thing that I said to the kid, it was a young group of black men at a church that they invited me to speak to. First thing I said, I'm here as Larry McKenzie, not Coach McKenzie. And it was recorded. But somebody turned me in, said I was there to recruit play.
Wow.
So, so those are the kind of, over the years, I could just tell you. So, yes, I've always felt like I needed to be kind of the role model or a model for other black coaches. And then on the flip side of that, to your point, I've always felt like, with the success that I've had, that also came with the responsibility of using that platform to speak out on issues as a successful black coach. That when I got an opportunity to be in those rooms, right, I'm gonna say something, right. So we're not gonna have these soft discussions about what's going on, like with what happened with my player, right? I was at the high school league that Monday morning, right? I want to talk to the person in charge. with your official. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking to them. My whole career, I went to state. I'm not trying to brag, but I was in state.
Talk that talk.
12 times.
No.
12 times, right? 8 championship games, and never ever had 3 black officials walk out. And I always wondered. I said, and I this is what I said to high school.
Last
In the last
year.
the last one was last year, right? And so I'm saying, I would want that other coach that don't look like me to see 3 black officials walk out, so he'll know how I felt my whole career, right? And so, I mean, I just feel like, so when you get to a certain place, right, you have a responsibility to use your platform to speak on other black coaches and players and whoever else out there behind it.
That's
Yes,
true.
It's always been that. For me, it's always been that. And for me, I think I saw my role as being more of a foot soldier, for 2 reasons. Because I truly believe that the people that you're around, you influence, right? So I said my best friend is Caucasian. He's from Toronto. He's 5'7". We're totally opposite people. Best friends in the whole world. I'll call him right now. He'd pick up, and we have a 2-hour conversation. So the dudes that was in my dorm with me, and I'm obviously cool with those dudes too, because they gonna see this and be like, well, you not cool with us? But those my guys too, and they'll tell you. Me and my boy Brandon Tiassum played with me at Notre Dame. It was a conversation every time, no matter what it was. Oh, so-and-so was on Twitter doing this. If me and Brandon right there, we gonna tell you like it is. We're gonna have a conversation with you, and you're gonna see us, people that you see every day that are your friends, in front of you, and we gonna tell you how it is. So for me, I saw myself as a foot soldier. Any situation that it was, I'm advocating black, I'm standing up. When 2020 came around, it was that too. So it really, for me, it's before sports at all times.
For you guys, has obviously, there's not, sports isn't just for one culture, right? So like they bring different people together. We all have different colored teammates. Like, has there been moments where you guys identify, like, look, my quarterback's white, my wide receiver's black, my offensive lineman might be Polynesian, but we all, even with these different backgrounds, we all came together and had a really good time when we bonded over that. Like, do you have any positive experiences with that?
That's the beauty of sports. That's
what Nelson Mandela said, that sports is really one of the ways of combating racism. Yep. Because if you think about it, like you were saying, no matter what, not like, again, Alabama, when I was growing up, you didn't Alabama. But if you go to the game, you got on a red jersey, and the other person could be white, he gonna buy you a beer. You know what I'm saying? Y'all cool till after the game.
Right, exactly.
That is
for those 3 hours.
That is the beauty of sports. I mean, and to your point, I mean, I think, like, for all of us, when we talk about, like, teammates, man, like, because they're your teammate and you got a different kind of relationship, you also can have different kind of conversation.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody in the locker room slip, you know what I'm saying? I mean, and again, you get comfortable. Y'all young people, so sometimes if you play, you know what I'm saying? You playing music, sing a song, ride in the set, you know what I'm saying? The music come on, hey, you watch the work, you know what I'm saying? And so, but you can, and then, why, and then they gonna say, why can't I say it, but you have those kind of conversations where I think when you're as a regular student walking through the building, you don't have to.
Right.
That's what happened.
Yeah, never see it.
America, for you, I know you told me that your team, you guys had like a lot of different, like, it was very diverse.
Yeah, our team. So I love my teammates to death. I love everybody. I love all my teammates. But yeah, my teammates, we come from everywhere. It's like we have like the Somali, the Ethiopian, the Nigerian, the Kenyan, the white, the black, the Asian, the Mexican, everything. Like, we've had, like, my team, we're this big melting pot of people. But it's like, we have always, like, cracked jokes on each other about our nationality. And so it's always been this, like, joke, though. And so, but even, like, me and my black teammates, like, there was this joke that one of my teammates said to me, because I'm not a field. I never did field, long jump, triple jump. I wasn't a field person at all, right? And my friend, my teammate, he was actually, I think he was doing a field event that day. And he was just like, well, me and America, we got to roll to the meet earlier. And he was like, because we both got field events. And I was just like, I don't have a field event. He was just like, yeah, you do, picking cotton. And I was like, wait a second.
I was trying to see where you was about to go with
no, it was terrible. It was just like, I mean, but there were things that the jokes that we would crack with each other, it was just like, it wasn't never offensive. It was just like, because like we love each other, but it's just like at the end of the day, it's like we all can come together too and have those tough conversations when things happen and things hit the fan. And if you can't, then it's just like sometimes once again, you know who your tribe is. And that's just who you feel safe around. And it's just like I said, I'm on a team of 50, 60 people. We travel together. We sleep next to each other. We cheer each other on. We spend 9 months out of the year together. That's how close we are. So it's just like, you know what, I lay down for you. So it's like, that's just kind of how we roll though. And everybody didn't approve, but it was like, that's just how we bonded though.
And so I told y'all about the story about Iowa and how, there was people that came out and tell their stories about experiencing racism in the locker room. And my experience is it's a little bit different than y'all's because of that. Because when that happened, these players that we thought was our brothers, they came out and was like, nah, that ain't happened. And they was just opposition. So these people that we thought was our brothers, love them to death, we grinding with them, we got their back no matter what, spent nights at their cribs and went home with them and then all that, and didn't know that. So when everything hit the fan and people was telling their experiences, the people that we thought was our brothers came out and basically told the world we was lying and not validating our experience because it wasn't theirs. And
that's the one.
And I think so for me, I still got love for them though. Like I feel like I ain't gonna hold them. They don't know no better. But I'm open to having that dialogue and the conversation. Like it make them think a little bit differently and open their minds up about the situation. But from my experience at the University of Iowa, those was my guys, my brothers. When everything hit the fan, they said all these things were going on. They directly turned opposites.
But when you say that they don't know any better, I feel like I can disagree with that simply because we all grown. And like you said, it's not their experience, it's your experience. And no one reached out to you to even have that conversation. And it's like, if that's your family, then I feel like we should, I have conversations with my siblings, tough conversations with my siblings all the time. But it's just like, I feel like there's ways. There's ways.
And that's one of those things where, it's they grow up that way.
Yeah.
And they come from a town where I went to school with all black people and they went to school with all white people. It's just different ways of upbringing.
And I think also too, in sports, like you guys know, some guys, sometimes some people get sold out different in terms of the program. And so they may have felt like they were protecting the program, protecting the coach, and those kind of things. And, like anything else, you was coming back to Minneapolis. They got to live in Iowa, right? And so so there's a lot of dynamics to that kind of stuff that happen. But I just know, and again, in those situations, it's hard though to trust people. The locker room ain't the same after you go through that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and be silence.
But the whole, after that, there was a group chat that started with over 300 former players and current players, coaches and all, and everybody was like, we got to attack this problem. So everybody ended up coming together, like, we got to attack this problem. There was a few in there that was like, there's some bull, and then there was a lot of more that was like, we got to figure this out, and how are we going to come together to figure it out?
I want to stay with that because the theme of the last couple of minutes has been about healing, right? through dialogue, through comedy. I would say I want to hear from everybody. Like, paint a picture on a solution to all of this. Like, how do we move forward?
Jeez.
I know it's a hard.
How big a canvas we got?
Yeah, but it's like how do we move forward? Like, in your eyes, like, just paint us a picture to what we need to do and what harmony looks like. What does that day look like when I could just go to the gym with my teammates and we could hoop and we don't have to worry about none of this?
So we, shout out Coach Fleck. In our program, we ended up having a situation where with COVID and George Floyd, where he opened the floor and we all went down there and we had a conversation about it. And it changed everybody's perspective, because now they see their teammates, guys they see every day, hurt, and literally the open dialogue brought us together crazy. And in 2020, we did have the greatest year, but that propelled us on to 2021 and making us stronger as a team. And I think from a sports standpoint, like, there's got to be more situations where we have conversations with everyone and it's just out and bold. Like, it has to change everybody's, perspective in a way where you're uncomfortable, right? And so what we did was Coach Fleck installed an initiative called Here, where we had somebody come in and teach Black history. And so they taught Black history, and we would also have conversations even within those talks about the subjects that we had them in, right? And so for me, off the field, it's a situation where it's tough to say the blueprint. And I feel like even myself having a vision to I do youth work. I got my master's to do youth work. And I went and got my bachelor's to do film because I wanted to combine those two things, and then also sports. I don't really see, right now a blueprint to kind of say, okay, well, we could put this here and it's going to work, because like we all saying, like, it's just so many things that occur and you have so much trauma that it's hard to bring people into spaces and have it just not be volatile. But I think sports, like Coach McKenzie was saying, like, it's the perfect canvas and it's the perfect situation, because now you have Caucasian players, right? And we go out to the bar or we go to class and they're like, no, wait, hold on. That's my guy. Like, I'm gonna defend him forever. You can't do that. And at Minnesota, we put forth and had real conversations in that time, and it's obviously up to Coach Fleck to continue that. I haven't been in the locker room for a year, so hopefully he is still doing those things. But it's tough off the field, man. It's or off the court or wherever you playing to really pinpoint that, like, that change, especially with like the NBA and the NFL having situations where they don't do anything about anything and nobody's having real conversation
on about it, and it's just like,
so I would be interested to hear what y'all have, but for me, I don't know, it's tough.
I think that, like, in what you said, having like big talks about it, me and my a teacher and a couple of my friends at school, we just did that. We had a serious talk about like a situation that happened, and having that talk coming from both perspectives, not just me thinking about the perspective, them saying their perspective, helps everybody think about it from different perspectives. And then I think I forgot what you just said, something about like the NBA. They have a lot of like racial bias and profiling throughout the whole NBA. I just did a whole presentation on that a while ago, and I found out out of all 30 teams, one owner is Black, and that's Michael Jordan. And there could be a lot more people who, like, Jay-Z was one, and I think
there's the guy in Toronto is one too.
There's like a lot of people who just don't understand that if you think about it from their perspective and not just your own perspective, it can go many different ways. And you could resolve this by just using not just social media, not just going to post something, this and this happened. No, go up to their face and say what your problem is and just try to resolve it out without having whole conflict. Even if there is conflict, if you figure it out, then y'all can just go y'all separate ways and just figure it out by talking instead of just
comfortable. That's the only way.
Uncomfortable situations are the hardest.
Yeah, and I really just think that most people just don't know what it's like to agree to disagree. Like, God didn't make us like that. He didn't make us to be cookies. He didn't make us all the same for that specific reason, because it's just like everything would be black and white, and everything's not black and white as much as people want to make it seem. But it's just like, how many conversations also are we gonna have before people start doing something about it? And that's always been my perspective about it. It's like, we could talk about it and everything. And I love that. I love that. Like, yes, bring light to the situation, bring your opinions, bring your facts, and bring your experiences. But also, what are we doing when we leave here? Like, after this conversation is had, what are we doing after that? Who are we getting in contact with? It's like that type of thing. Like you said, the coaches, like, they put out these statements, but it's just like, stand on it. That's all people ask.
So I think one of the things is, this already been said, Mike had talked about, like, you got to have conversations. So I've been doing some of this work since George Floyd, right? And I always talk about building bridges and breaking out barriers. And what I've found in doing the work, a lot of times it's just the greater society spend so much time dividing us. And so our fights is about our differences. But like in this sports, right? And I always say, like, for my team, you don't get to know each other in basketball practice. You got to do stuff outside. And so, like, and what I found in working with a lot of coaches, right, and dealing with this stuff is, like, once we start talking, like, he a dad, I'm a dad. He a grandfather, he like golf, I like. And so we have more in common than we have differences. But the problem is we're not talking. We're not talking. And so to that point, I mean, I think one of the solutions is, so one thing that I did my whole career, I would always take my inner city kids to outstate Minnesota to a town where they would go see a farm. We had our kids milk cows and do all other, because I wanted them to see the other side, right? Because a part of the problem, the reason that we hide it, because we don't know each other, right?
Understand what anybody else goes through.
Like, we got to start having more. The dialogue has to be in the classroom. You hire two teams from the suburban team with the inner city team, practice, and then sit down and talk.
Yes.
Break bread, have a conversation, right? And then you get to know each other. Like, and I see it all the time. Like, I mean, we took our kids a couple years ago up to Fargo, doing Dakota. Those kids still have those friendships, right? So we played, we sat down in the cafeteria, we had pizza, we talked, you sit with somebody you don't know, spend some time, and that's how you get to know people. To me, we don't spend enough time, you know what I'm saying, outside of the sport, right? And so those kids that are in the stands that are making those statements and that kind of stuff, well, the only relationships that they don't, only time they see black folks is on TV. You know what I'm saying? So it's how do we, and I always say this, if you got people on this side of the bridge and people on this side of the bridge, unless y'all walk to the middle of the bridge, ain't nothing gonna change.
And that's what people don't want to, they don't want to meet in the middle. No one wants to meet in the middle. It's like my way or the highway. And it's just like, that's not how things work.
You have to figure out how to talk without saying, no, you're wrong in this whole situation. I'm right the whole time.
It's not even about being right or wrong. It's simply about existing with each other.
Understanding or trying.
I mean, and one of the things I remember when they were asking me about George Floyd, I was like, if you close your eyes, right, and you George Floyd, it wasn't about black and white. It really was about wrong and right. And if we spend more time, you know what I'm saying? Because if we spend more time focusing on humanity, right? You close your eyes. There's no way you can make what happened in that situation. You could justify it, right? That's wrong.
I don't care if he's
You're right. Yeah, that's wrong. And so I'm saying, if we spend more time from a humanity standpoint, right? Let's forget about the color difference, right? Let's talk about what's right and what's wrong, right? And to put a knee on a person's, that's just straight out wrong. They ain't got nothing to do with color, right? And so to me, that's where we got to get to, right? But we can't, it's just, I don't know if y'all ever read Dr. Patina Love books where she talk about co-conspirators and allies, right? To do this, right? Because it's Minnesota. It ain't enough for us. It ain't enough. You know what I'm saying? Let's be real. It ain't enough for us, right? So unless we get some co-conspirators, people who willing to, like, hey, this is wrong. I'm gonna come stand beside them because this is wrong, right? And regardless, you know, no matter what happened, like you talking about your boy, right? I got you, right? Because this is wrong. It ain't got nothing to do with black and white. It's about wrong and right. And so until we can get to that point, we're gonna continue to have this issue. And a lot of what, and I'll say this, like that kid that wrote that Instagram to my kid and that guy, he learned that at the dinner table.
Easily.
He learned that at the dinner table, right? And so again though, dinner table and watching TV with all of the stereotypes that we have. So unless we can go to those places and have some real conversation, right? And not be in denial. Like you were talking about some guys in the locker room. But it's courageous conversation. That's what we gotta have. But it's hard for us because if I go to New Prague and I start talking like this, I'm getting involved in critical race theory. You know what I'm saying, right? And so now that's a problem, right? And so we just gotta have the right kind of dialogue, man. But we gotta talk.
I think that's so. I agree with the dialogue and the conversation, but the thing with sports has always been that escape for people where it's like, it's just now being okay to have these conversations. It's like, we don't want to talk politics, we don't want to talk about religion, we don't want to talk about nothing but Ohio State and Michigan playing this football game.
Even subjective situations like why every time a quarterback in college goes crazy, throwing the ball, running the ball, but every time the draft come around, now we want to have the conversation that he got to play a different position. Even stuff like that, like it's just if we can't sit down and just all have, you know, my mom always said common sense ain't common, but sometimes it's just stuff that, like you said, it's just a human problem. And the fact that you sitting here telling me that he can't play quarterback when I just seen him hurdle 5 people, throw for 300 yards, like that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
And I think so. To that point, Damar Hamlin, we all heard about it. I don't know if we all seen it, but we heard about it. That might have been the first time that I seen sports humanize a person, and an individual. So I think, and this is just this week. So
That gave me chills. I ain't even gonna lie.
Yeah, that was tough.
we got like 2 minutes here, so I want to wrap up. But that was a great point there, and I appreciate all the honesty and transparency here. I just want to say we're all here because of the student conference. We're here to educate and inspire, to get kids to do this, what we're doing right now, to sit down and have this dialogue that is needed. I just want to go around real quick, just in 10 seconds, if you could sum it up, the message that you want to send to the kids that are going to see this, to the parents that are going to see this, and the people running the student conference. What would you want to get out there just to let them know, from your perspective, what we need to work on and what we need to do moving forward to have these courageous conversations?
I think what I would want people to know and to hear from me personally is to just treat people how, you know, you want to be treated. You wouldn't want anybody to say something crazy to you. You want nobody talking about your mama, your past, you know, none of that stuff. And it's just like, I feel like we need to have a respect for each other. Respect is earned, but you got to give it to get it. And that's just the bottom line.
I would just ask everybody just be open-minded and to be able to just don't be so caught up in your ways and your thoughts, and just be open-minded and just take in consideration different ideas and be open to different paradigm shifts.
Yeah, I'll say just leading with love, leading with compassion, being willing to learn, being willing to listen, and really putting everything into other people's shoes, and having more perspective about people's lives, and just being understanding, simple.
Being able to believe that not your way is the only way. Think about other people's perspective and how they feel and what it can do in any type of situation, and just understand or attempt to understand different things happen in the world.
Take us home, Coach.
I would say, I mean, and it's been said, I mean, in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King, right, that we want people to judge us not by the color of our skin, but the content of our character, to not focus on the black and the white, but focus on the wrong and the right.
That was great, man. I love that. I love the conversation we had. It was amazing, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. It was better than I expected it to be. So.